What's up, boys and girls? This is Spit Logic, and this is the Orba 2 by Artiphone. Now, this device has been out for quite some time already. I'm really just now discovering it, and just based on my impressions of it for the time that I've had it, the Artiphone Orba 2 is not going to replace any step sequencer. It's not going to replace a MIDI device or a MIDI controller. But this little piece of equipment does have some value in it. In this video, I'm going to use the Orba 2 as kind of my source of music and melody. I'm going to integrate that with the workflow of the SP44 Mark II. And while I'm kind of going over the workflow of the Mark II, I'll also be talking about the workflow as it relates to the Orba 2 and how those two can work together to create a beat. So first things first, you want to connect the Orba 2 to your app. And in this case, I have it connected via my computer by way of the USB-C connection. I have it connected right there into my computer. And then I'm using the audio jack. The audio is going out of my Orba 2 and is going into the 1/4 inch connectors on the input at the top of the SP44 Mark II. So first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and turn this Orba 2 on. And I always like the little light display that it gives as it turns on. And then on the application, I believe you should see it being seen by it. And you can see right there, you can see it. You have these little options here for it. This is just kind of a few things that you can do. I think, especially with this Orba 2 sounds with USB, I think I might try that and see how that works with the SP44 Mark II. But for right now, just going into using the audio, this audio port into an audio port. And then of course the haptic feedback, that's the vibration sound that you feel as you press things here on the Orba 2. So now that we're connected, I'm just gonna X out of here. And you have your display of the different instruments right here. There are 4 different, I guess you could call it modes on the Orba 2 that you have. Play, the presets, songs, and the sample. Play essentially deals with the current instrument that you're on right now. If you click on presets, that gives you the options for the different instruments that you can use. A lot of times, every time I open this app, it does want to conduct a scan. I believe what it is doing is checking for any changes that have happened to the library and maybe some sort of library changes that may be able to download online. That's what it looks like to me. And then when you get over here to songs, this has all of kind of the stock songs. You also have the ability to export songs from your Orba 2 directly into your from your Orba 2 directly onto your computer. So now that I have my instruments that I want to use, the first thing I'm going to do is set the BPMs on for this particular song. So that center button, that center A for the Orba 2, you hold that down, and just to orient you, these 4 buttons are going to be your instruments. And then these top 4 buttons are going to be your function keys, the function buttons. And when you hit that A button, it will give you the opportunity to use any of these buttons to either switch to an instrument or to utilize a function. In this case, the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to set the BPMs on here. And all you need to do, you hit that A button and you just start tapping the BPMs for the pace that you want to go. If you notice right here, button number 1 is blinking, kind of signifying to you what the BPMs are going to look like. You have a really good indication of what those BPMs are going to be. When you hold that A down and hit the record button, it'll give you a metronome, and you'll hear that metronome to confirm what those BPMs are. Additionally, while you have that metronome going, you hold that A down and start tapping the BPMs, it will conform to what those BPMs are, so you can, in real time, hear what those BPMs are. And the thing about this is even though you hear that metronome going, there is no real countdown, and it won't start the actual beginning of your pattern until you start playing on that first beat. So we'll just do something simple. And once you hit that A button, even though I haven't touched it again, it has stopped recording where I stopped playing. If in between this space that I start hitting another key, it'll start recording that as part of the overall melody. But right now, even though it's still going, when I hit that record button again, it'll start playing at the very beginning and it will loop and end where I stopped recording. If I don't want to record it, if I hit it again and hit record, it's going to stop. You don't hear the metronome. It is also not recording anything that I do. So I can go to my next area, which is going to be my chords, and I can just practice. Then I'm going to go ahead and go to the lead. Sure, we'll do something like that. Here we go. So this is the melody that I have. I'm just gonna stick with this simple bass. Well, let's see if there's anything on the... Sure, let's go with that. Now let's say all of this percussion that I added on here, I don't want it anymore. The good thing and kind of the bad thing about it is whatever instrument you're on, if you hold this A button while you're in record mode and then hold record, you allow it to make a complete loop and you let go and it will erase that particular instrument. Unfortunately, if you use that instrument in different instances, so let's say I record another layer of piano or a second layer of chords. When I erase it, it's only going to erase whatever the chords are, all of the chords. It's not going to just erase the one that I just recorded. So that's kind of a simple thing. And of course, it's such a small and simple instrument, but certainly something I would like to be able to undo particular sessions as opposed to entire instruments. So now that I have my melody created, how do I get it from the Orba 2 into my SP44 Mark II? So let's go ahead and I'm going to treat my Orba 2 almost like I would a record or any sort of external audio source that I'm playing directly into my SP44 Mark II. So I'm going to, I guess, get out of pattern mode and let's just go ahead and hit the record mode on here. Once I determine the pad that I want to do, and I'm going to have it on wait, so once I start playing it, it will start playing. But before we go into there, let's go into the record settings, because I think this is kind of an interesting part that you're going to want to do. So for the routing, I want to just do external in. I just find it better to just stick with only purely what is coming from outside in, just in case, you know, if I had any other samples or anything, I don't want to accidentally hit something and that conflict with the audio that I'm trying to do. But I think what's also important, input effects. So let's go ahead and just play this. And let's add an effect to it here. And you know, one thing that's just so interesting about the SP44 Mark II, as you can just see right here, there are effects on this SP44 Mark II that you can't access through any of the bus here. It is only accessible for recording audio into it. But I think what I want to do, let's add one of the vinyl sims on here. I kind of like that 303 sim. I actually like the way that the noise on here. I like the noise better, I think, than on the 4-4. I think the noise on the 4-4 is just, I don't know. I think I like the 303 because it's a little more subtle. You know, even if I increase it, it's just a little bit more subtle, kind of that noise factor. It sounds a little more like a decent record. So I'm going to go ahead and get ready to record it. I have a feeling that this is going to start recording because I have it set on wait, and with the effects that I'm hearing, it's probably going to pick up the effects before it starts. Yep, it did, but we're going to go ahead and record that anyway. And another thing that I just noticed, even though it's supposed to start at the beginning of the pattern, it didn't necessarily start at the very beginning. Which I guess is fine because I can record this pattern. I can loop this pattern a couple of times. And I'm going to hit record and it's complete. I'm going to go ahead and just stop it here on this part, and then we're not going to really use the Orba 2 anymore, so I'm going to just remove this, and now we're solely going to be on the SP44 Mark II. So now that we have it, we're just treated just like any other sample that we would have with the start and end. I'm going to just kind of truncate this at the second part where the melody started. We'll just do what we always do with it, what I always do with it, and chop this up. Shift start in. Now, even though I made this into 16 bars, these three, these are the same. These 8 bars are the same. So I'm gonna just reverse these 4 to make them a little different, so that all these, there's this kind of different between all of them. What's always interesting is how something sounds with the pitch speed brought down. Let's go to -5. So it's the original, right? Let's go to -5. I guess the biggest takeaway from this video is, I guess, two things. I think number one, even though the Orba 2 is a small device, not very powerful, not a very traditional source, if used correctly, if utilized in the right way, you can do a lot of things with it, especially when you're talking about integrating it into your workflow in the SP44 Mark II. Additionally, the SP44 Mark II, to me, has proven to be this very universal piece of equipment that you can integrate and use as you see fit when dealing with music creation or melody creation. The SP44 Mark II continues to impress me with the way that you are able to take any source of melody or music or sound, whether you download it or listen to it directly in through the analog portions of it, and then have the ability to take that, encapsulate that, and exploit the source material in order to create something for yourself. I'd be curious to know from your perspective, if you use the Orba 2 or if you've considered using it, do you use it and integrate it with another piece of equipment? Do you use it as kind of a fidget instrument, just for something to pass the time when you're traveling or on your own? Or do you use it as a MIDI controller? Do you have some sort of computer integration with it directly with your favorite DAW? As always, I thank you for the view and I thank you for the listen. And until next time, peace.